Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. Hi, I'm Bonnie Violet, and I'm a trans, femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, person living with HIV, and a person in recovery.
Absolutely. And I'm Lulu, and I'm a single Black gay Virgo man living in the DeVos Triangle of San Francisco, into exploring my pan side, whatever that means, retailer by day, and a former Miss CCC. I switched up the drag queen by weekend. That's for fundraisers, of course. Self-proclaimed funny, and I'm spiritual and in recovery for alcohol and crystal meth for 13 years, and I'm always in search of balance.
Always. And each week we do provide, and create a brave space where we engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for people in recovery
by tackling topics used to separate us.
Absolutely. And so don't forget to like, share, comment,
Ding that bell
wherever.
You'll get notifications.
Yeah. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, how are you?
Bonnie's back with us. Bonnie's always with us.
In a row, though.
Yeah, but in person. In the studio. And yes. You notice that we're missing someone.
Are we? Oh yeah, we are missing someone.
The shade is thick in the room.
Well, he is coming from Hawaii, so it's
I know.
It's hard
it's
to
like
feel bad about that.
I called him Hawaii boy. Yeah, he was on vacation in Hawaii, so yes. It's like best of luck to you. We wish you well. It's like when you sign in and judge us for how. Anyway,
right. Anthony will be with us though next week, and yeah, we'll just miss him this week.
Exactly.
How's your week been?
The week has been really. It's been nice. It's like I'm readjusting to being back after my trip. Oh, my trip is over. This is great. Back at work and the usual stuff. It's been the weather's been great this week.
Yeah. Has it?
I felt like it has.
Like a little. There's just been so much wind lately.
Okay,
that hasn't been cute.
Yeah, no.
But yeah.
Okay. How about you? Did you have a good week?
Yeah. I got old. Yeah. I turned 43 on Sunday.
Congratulations.
Oh. Actually, I partied on Sunday, but Monday was actually the day. Yeah.
Nice. Hey, speaking of turning a year older or whatever, our amazing producer back here, DJ Wasabi-Nuts,
AKA
Brandon, today is celebrating 10 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
Woohoo. That's
sober date actually on the 29th of February, right? Nice,
exactly.
Leap year recovery.
So that means you only have 2 years.
Right? I don't know. I think I'd maybe have to have another drink. Just one more day.
I know, exactly. I'm just going to drink.
I'll just wait until the 1st.
I know. And it never works out because it's like I say I'm going to wait till the 1st, and then the 1st next year I'm all, okay, now
I'm going to stop when you can, right?
Exactly. Yes. So what's our topic today?
So our topic is being happy versus being right, the challenges of difference.
Absolutely. And so being happy versus being right. There's so many different ways to kind of like approach that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the first thing I think about when I think about the topic is like when we come in and we get a recovery, and all of a sudden we start feeling ourselves and feeling our oats, then it's hard to imagine that any other way is the right way. Like I'm holding, and I think what it is, we're holding on so tightly for our life that, okay, so this is working for me. Like I chose one route, like a 12-step route. And mind you, I don't speak for anybody else, but I am going to talk about 12-step. I chose that route, and it's not for everyone. But you get to that place where you think, oh man, other people don't do it. And before you are able to kind of respect other people's opportunities or ways they do things, you get a little overzealous.
Yeah.
And
well, there's the other side of the coin to that, right? If you're thinking like, I'm always doing that, like this is the right way to do it, and I'm doing the things right, but then you start getting results that you're not really wanting, then you're kind of like fucked. Like when you have that just a black and white kind of thinking that there's only one right way or correct way to do it. And if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, then you're like, what am I doing wrong? And I don't think that's always the case. Sometimes life just unfolds in a way that gives you results that you don't want. And that's not to say you can't do the work and you don't do the work, but at the end of the day, there's something else out there
Yeah,
that
I
is,
think
you know, really bringing those results.
exactly. That's where that open-mindedness aspect comes in. It's like, come
Mhm.
on. The only thing common is, the only thing is common is uncommon. Or what is how does that go?
I'm
There,
not
the
sure.
only common sense no longer becomes common sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
I understand what you mean there. I think.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. It's like
Well, and when you hear the being happy versus being right sentiment that's in some recovery rooms and text, it talks about that in the sense of kind of around it. I feel like it's kind of around resentments and maybe kind of even a spiritual way of looking. I don't know. I feel like it's more like around resentments, and I think to me, it feels like it puts a lot of power in the other person.
no, absolutely, absolutely. I think the other thing is, for me specifically, I had to learn a valuable lesson. If it's not solicited, then I need to keep it to myself.
Mhm.
And so I think that,
Just like dick pics,
well,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's like I think if we're offering any advice today, if you're really trying to connect with that special someone, make sure it's okay. Make sure
Mhm.
they're in on it if you're going to send them a dick pic.
Right, right. And it's the same way around advice or, you know,
Absolutely.
any of that sort of
Well,
thing.
well, it's that thing. It's like, okay, so I've had my life experience. I think this may be the challenge. I'm not a parent. This might be the challenge. You have had experiences, and they, whether painful or not, and you've come through them, and you see someone that you love or you care about, or even that especially in recovery, doing the same thing, and your inclination, or you're inclined to want to keep them from it or protect them from it. But the reality is, we sometimes have to go through what we have to go through.
Right.
And for me, the litmus test or the lesson is like, okay, so am I that person in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And if I am that person in your life, I also have to find out, I have to check the temperature. I have to make sure that what I'm offering to you is, number one, warranted, or you'll be received. Because if I'm trying to do good and you receive it the wrong way, then I'm a creator of confusion more than
Exactly.
anything.
You're not really getting
Yeah.
across what you want to get across. Is there an echo? Do you think? Are we able to turn off the volume on this?
The volume is off. That's why I
Okay.
did that.
All right.
Do you have it? Do you feel an echo?
I hear an echo, but maybe it's because I have. Ooh, maybe that helps. I mean, it helps us here, but I just wonder if like it's echoing for.
Did you
folks
wait?
who are
Was
listening.
your headsets not on?
Well, I had one on and one off. It's like, I don't know. It's like when you're walking, I don't know, like a lady has to protect herself. So I
Oh,
always
right on.
have one on or the other, but I guess we're in the studio. That's a very different setting.
Dominique, Bonnie, is it true you're leaving San Francisco?
Yeah, this is my last night in San Francisco yeah, for a little bit. I think I'll be back in May.
Yeah, we were really fortunate to have you as long as we had.
I was fortunate to get here. I really miss it here. I love San Francisco.
So let me circle back around, because I was talking, and I thanks to the Bonnie and that echo, I got distracted.
It was driving me crazy. I couldn't even hear what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no. But getting back to kind of like, I love you, I care, whatever, and I want you to not experience that.
Mhm.
And I've found myself stepping in all sorts of egg, because I will go and say, well, maybe you should do this or this, or a comment, and unfortunately, my comment, sometimes it comes off as snide, or and it doesn't serve me. It's not my place, and more than anything, it messes with my serenity.
Yeah.
And when I could have just stayed out of it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of, I think the basic sentiment of that saying is just the idea, would you rather be happy or right? So like, who fucking cares if you're right or wrong? Just like keep the peace, keep moving. It's not something worth like fighting about.
Absolutely. But it's like, I guess for let me ask you, it's like, so the struggle, the challenge, getting to a place where, I'm not the most spiritual person all the time, but the fact that I'm finally able to pause and take, and think about before, like, I approach. But for the individuals who aren't there, like, how do you what can you offer to an individual who, like, I'm right. I know I'm right. I know I'm right, and I need to say something, but It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's so hard to know like what's going on. Like if somebody is struggling and they keep getting results that they don't like, then sometimes it's helpful to point it out to people if it's the right person, like I remember a friend of mine a while back, he was like in his first little bit of sobriety, and he was kind of like, oh, it's really not that bad. Like I'm like, girl, you are pretty much homeless. Like you're sleeping on my couch, but you don't have a home. You don't have a job. Like,
Well, I think if they're sleeping on your couch, that
right, you
that
have
gives you
some sort
that's a
of
that's an
opening.
inroad. Yeah, that's an
Right.
inroad. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can't just, I mean, in some ways they solicit that from you because you have that sort of relationship. But even when you're in those relationships, sometimes you still have to be like, hey girl, like, are you in the mood for me to like share something with you? But at the end of the day, that's something that like, I used to think like I kind of knew what was right. And like one of my big challenges is thinking what you could be doing to be better.
Yeah.
And and part of sometimes that's from the point of view of like, well, I've gotten better. Like I don't do that behavior anymore. I don't have that action. This is really like, especially like with my family, like when you move away from your family dynamics and you just start to change in whatever way, and they seem to kind of stay the same way. It's like, oh, but like I'm experiencing this relief or this healing or whatever, and I want it for you. And so it's like you want to give it to them, and that's just not like that's not how it works.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've had the same thing. It's like I leave my family, go back to them, and
Right.
and I see this. It's almost as if time stops.
Mhm.
But what it is like what they're doing works for them.
Well, and they do have to change to be with you. And that's not something like they don't have to do the things that you do to become the person that you're becoming, but because you are different, people are going to respond to you differently and you're going to respond to them differently. Like it's almost like in time, it wears off.
Yeah.
Like not always, but I think it can wear off.
Well, I think that's where acceptance comes in, because it's like you have to kind of decide what it is that you're willing to accept, because like change is inevitable, and if you're in that process of changing, and you've got folks that are fighting it. I was thinking too about okay, so back to okay, so the person sleeping on your couch or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes being honest and telling the truth is what's going to give you that happiness.
Right.
Sometimes telling your truth, it may cause the relationship to kind of fall at the wayside or whatever. But I think that dishonesty, in that case, it's like being dishonest and not speaking your truth or whatever, especially if it's going to bring you relief and help you kind of to set clearer boundaries.
Right. I mean, for me, I think early on it was important for me to have like right and wrong and for things to be kind of more black and white. But eventually I had to kind of like, for me, I had to really get rid of the idea of right or wrong, because I was the type of person, I was the, overachiever. Like I always thought I was doing the right thing, even when I was coming up short. And so for me to continue to try to do the right thing, even if it was the more right thing, was not I would fall short, and then it would just kind of hit me in a bad way. And the reality is that there's a lot of correct ways, and there's, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of like not so great ways, but like, I just feel like I'm able to get different results and a different experience by just eliminating the right or wrong aspect. And that can allow me to really just like deal with what's in front of me right now and make a decision.
Absolutely. If you're joining us, it's like, please feel free to chime in and share any thoughts that you may have. Again, the topic is being happy versus being right, the challenges with differences.
Yeah. And so maybe we should jump into that subtitle a little bit.
Exactly.
Why is the challenges with differences relate to like what comes to mind for you?
Well, I think the first thing, like life experience, because so like I was thinking to myself, as I came in as an adult, already having certain life experiences, even though I maybe wasn't tapping into the best parts of that. I had those experiences, and those experiences, they kind of made up who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And other people, if I came in with these clearly defined things, other people, same. And there's gonna be a bit of a clash. It's almost like that idea of group formation, the 4 stages of group formation. It's like forming, storming. The forming is coming together. The storming is um, everybody's ideas, and no one's really kind of paying attention.
Right.
And then there's
Is it norming?
norming. The next is norming. I understand how you show up, how you are, and it's we get to understand. And then the final is performing. And now that we know how to work together, now that I understand that I don't need to come in and say, "Hey, Bonnie," or I say something that doesn't work for you, I get to kind of focus in on the right things that I need to. So,
yeah.
and I think that where the differences lie, it's like, if I don't agree, if I don't agree with something, it's like I don't get to kind of impose it. Like if I have found my spirituality in a church, and this is a great example. Like if I found my spirituality in a church and I have no problem with the word God, and I come across someone who struggles with that or doesn't believe, because I've heard people like, I don't understand why you don't believe in God or this and whatever. I have to find a way to kind of do what I'm doing, and not have what you believe affect me. And this is hard, like in life, because you see it all the time. Folks are so adamant. This is like, how dare you? You can't be this way. You have to believe this and whatever. And nobody has to believe anything they want to believe. But it's like,
well, and at the end of the day, we're sometimes using the same words, but we're not always talking about the same thing because we're experiencing it our own way. We have our own perspective. So when I say God, that I see or think of something different than you do, or Brandon does, or somebody else does. It's kind of like that old thing that you hear, like, well, if you say picture a white house, like everyone's picturing a white house, but it's, like, why is it got to be white? But you're picturing this white house.
Yeah, no,
but it's a different house for everyone.
It's like we're headed in the same direction, but the way we get there, we take different routes to get there.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, I think if you're wanting to be helpful or useful in this person's life, you learn to use different language.
Yeah.
Because you notice that the person is triggered by that. I have a podcast with my aunt called Splintered Grace, and she's a conservative Christian. And there are often times when we're in conversation where she'll say like just shit that I grew up with in church or whatever, and she doesn't really mean anything by it, but when she says it, it hits something in me, and then I have to it's gotten to a point where I've been with her enough to where I've developed some trust that I don't take it personal, and I can kind of do the gymnastics to okay, no, I really hear what you're trying to say. But I think at the end of the day, at some point, it would be quicker and maybe more helpful if she was actually able to find different ways of saying those things instead of saying those things over and over. Like she calls it Christianese, to speak in this language that seems to trigger other people is not helpful. So how can I change that?
Yeah. So what have you noticed, and this is specifically, have you noticed her growth?
Yeah. I mean, I often say this, and I know this isn't we're not talking specifically about her in some ways, but I feel and I experience this myself too, is I feel sometimes that her words haven't caught up to her experience. Mm-hmm. So she's able to show up for me in a way that I think is caring and helpful and loving.
So it's grace, huh?
Well, yeah.
So giving each person a little bit of grace.
Right. But then she'll say words that sometimes seem contrary to her action. Do you know what I mean?
No, exactly.
And I think sometimes we can get in those states of saying the same shit we say all the time and not realizing, oh, actually, I don't think that anymore. Or I've come to believe something different. And so I think that's just part of the thing. I think oftentimes, even my experience with a higher power with God, I can't tell you what God is or who God is or, any of that sort of stuff. But I know that I've had an experience with something that people often call God. Mm-hmm. And I try to talk about that with people, but I actually know, I already know, I've already had the experience. Do you know what I mean?
So, no, exactly. I think what's helped me, and it's been a messy, bumpy road, but if I always go back to my journey and what I had to deal with to get to the place where I'm at right now, and if I come from a place of compassion or empathy or whatever, and I understand that, other folks have to kind of have their journey,
Yeah.
then I get to kind of step back and be patient and realize that this is not frivolous how people, and I don't know if I'm using the right words, but that I basically I got to have my journey. I'm gonna
Right.
let somebody else have their journey. And
Yeah.
again, if it's my role in their life, because that's where I like draw the line. Like
Mhm.
I have relationship with sponsees, and they're asking for it,
Right.
and they're asking for it,
Right.
and so I get to offer it.
But you still have to allow people the dignity of their own
Absolutely.
experience in the same way that you needed to. And I heard that said once, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm robbing somebody's dignity, if you will, if I'm like pushing this stuff. Allow them to learn that for
Yeah,
themselves.
I think the other thing is like if someone comes to me and they want to unload, I usually just do a little disclaimer. I'm all, okay, you know what? I'm not a therapist and you're not
Mm,
paying me. So I'm probably going to tell you what I think. And it might not be right, or you may not agree, but I just want you to know that
mhm.
you can tell me that you just want me to listen to you, and I can decide in that moment if I just want to listen,
Right, right.
or not, because I don't have to listen. I'd like to, but what I'm saying is like
Mhm.
if we communicate and you say, I just need to vent. I
Right,
just need
right.
to get it off my chest. But if you just come all willy nilly, no matter who you are and what our relationship is, I usually, like, I've just been, I'm probably going to say this. And if you don't like what I say, then I think that you get to adjust your expectations when you kind of come giving people all that nonsense,
Right, right.
and
I
all that.
remember
That was judgment. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that. Let's strike that from the record.
when we were talking about the title, the challenges with difference or whatever,
Hmm.
I initially was thinking like the gifts of um, differences, right? The gifts of being different, which I think is just like, it's kind of like that shit that we learn in recovery when we're like, oh no, I get to get a job and I get to like do
Yeah.
these things that I hate doing. And so I feel like it's kind of like in that same vein of like trying to twist it around. And like for me, I can get really frustrated with people not doing it the way that I want them to do or the way that I do it, or they see it different. But at the end of the day, I love that. I
Yeah.
love to get that opportunity to wrestle, if you will, and to negotiate and try to have a conversation with someone. Um, like I'm often better for it.
Yeah, no, it's like when you get over yourself, when you
Yeah.
step back and you look, especially in recovery, when you realize that there's so many different ways to kind of approach the same thing. I have once I got over this feeling that I needed to be right, or that the way that I was doing it was the only way, and I was able to kind of open my mind to like other things. And I've I've I've
Mhm.
modified the way I approach certain things just because I've been able to sit back and say, oh, this makes sense. Because the last thing I want is for this thing that is my, like, what is it? That is kind of, that's always going to be kind of the same. What's the word? It's whatever. Um, I'll figure it out. I might come back to it. I want to keep this as fresh as I can.
Mhm.
And keeping as fresh as I can means that you are open to approaching the
Right.
things that are kind of consistently the same
Mhm.
in different ways.
Yeah, yeah. Totally feel that. Where next, huh?
Well, I can tell you about so I met with my sponsor beforehand,
Mhm.
and I did a little mini four-step around some struggles that I was having, and it, it has to do with work. Okay, so I'm a manager at work, and
Mhm.
this is a situation where, and I'm such a Virgo when I'm very kind of particular about like rules and regulations, and so in this instance, if I approach it, very kind of, you know, clinically or whatever, I'm right.
Mhm.
And but this is another way I was thinking. It's like, okay, I'm right, but I'm not always liked,
Mhm.
or having to find a way to deal with folks who just don't understand that and so I've had to kind of pull back and figure out how to approach, but while not compromising who I am and how I want to show up, but also realizing, and a valuable lesson in management is that if you don't have people, you can't be a manager. You can have the title all you want, but it's like if people don't, and so how do I work within the structure or whatever? And
well, and I think being a manager for a person in recovery is really tricky. It's kind of like, because a lot of, I think, what we learn in the program and what I've come to learn or find helpful is when I can let go, let God, when I can let people kind of have, like, to some degree, it's like if you're the manager, there are some expectations for you to
absolutely
kind of like set the ground and like hold people to the fire.
And I hold them to the fire.
And also, like you were saying, you want to be able to work with these people too. You want to be able to be like not necessarily to be liked just to be liked, but to be liked because then it's a great environment to work in.
Yeah, what I have to do is I sift through and I make sure that I'm not bringing in my past outside judgments and experience that's going to cloud anything to do. I also try to make sure that I pay attention to the good qualities that the individuals have, and not just shine a light on the things that I think are, because I work a certain way, and I realize not everybody's going to work that way. And because we talk about like being a worker among workers and showing up and giving like my 100%, and it's unfair for me to judge folks based on that, but I do. And so what we talked about after I did my fourth step is like, okay, so how do I find a way to work within kind of the structure? Because obviously these people around, the owners have not let, it's not the problem that I see, especially I probably am in my own little world about like, this needs to be this way. And I'm like, I'm right. And I know how, and that's maybe a lesson I get to learn.
How do you let that go?
How you let it go. So,
because is that what you're trying to do? Is that
exactly? Because we were talking about what it affects, and it definitely affects my ambition, my security, and my personal relationships. And so there have been a few times where I just want to throw my hands up and say, okay, I'm done. I can't work like this. I can't work like this, and I run out. And so I have to figure out, okay, so what again, acceptance. What am I willing to accept? And how can I work with these individuals in a way that doesn't kind of like shortchange me or take and it's a constant kind of like struggle. And I think that what we came up on is like there wasn't really an answer now, but we can continually check my temperature and see where I'm at. But there's always in the back of my mind is like, okay, yeah, maybe it'll reach that point where I can't work like this.
Right.
But I am not going to shoot off my nose to spite my face. So that's the gift of recovery. It's like I don't get to just like sweep it under the carpet, because what I found is like as much as I think I'm done with something, I'm usually thinking about it. It's like I'm not just say I'm not thinking about it, and it's in my mind. I just don't see it.
Yeah. Folks, do you have any questions for us or prompts for us in this continued conversation? We're glad that you've joined us.
Exactly.
This evening or afternoon or whenever you're listening or watching us, if you choose to watch us.
Exactly. And this, I saw like a comment, and I don't think he signed in, but it was this idea that, being happy versus, based on our topic, that it was kind of a false equivalency. And I think that one of the challenges,
comparing the two things.
Yeah, one of the challenges that or the way I saw it, it was worded in a way that how was it worded? I guess he just assumed that going along with status quo, meaning like I'm going to shut up and just let, and
I get you.
And I wanted to comment. I ended up just saying tune in and participate in the conversation and educate us. But I think what it is, it kind of goes back to what we're talking about. It's like, okay, so me stepping back or me not commenting or me not giving you my unsolicited advice
Right.
doesn't mean that I don't care. Doesn't mean that I'm just going along with the nonsense. It means that I get to discern and decide, because just because I have it doesn't mean you're going to receive it.
Right.
It's like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, in this instance, maybe there's someone else who can have that conversation with you,
Yeah.
and it's not me. And the way that I'm going to take care of myself is to step out of it. And the more that I do this, the more I'm able to kind of think clearly
Right.
about the times that I need to do it. Because there are definitely times, it's like the Serenity Prayer, the knowing when to do what we do. No, this is when I can do it. And there are many times when we can do it, but there are a lot of times when we need to step back and kind of let whatever's supposed to unfold.
Right. There's a difference between that being right, happy versus being right, and complacency. Like I feel like those two different things. And I do feel like, though, to me, I feel like being happy and being right is like a response to being petty. Like you can either be petty or you can be happy, right? Like, because I don't think it's over like real serious, like important shit. Like, those are things that, maybe you need to challenge it. Maybe you need to, be unhappy, if you will. But I mean, I think for the most part, I don't think this is a super spiritual practice. I don't think it's anything that's that serious. I think it's just like, girl, stop being petty. Stop sweating the small stuff. Stop getting frustrated about this, that, or other that doesn't really fucking matter. And like, don't waste your energy on it. Kind of like you were talking about.
This is my hula hoop and everything outside of my hula hoop.
Right. But I think it's a lot different than like, I don't know. I'm trying to think what would be like so important to like challenge somebody about, if you will. Like, I guess to challenge the status quo or whatever, that sort of statement.
Well, I think that when I'm working on me, when I'm working on myself, when I've got things going on, when my life is moving in the direction that I want it to move in, I don't always have time to be caught up in stuff that is inconsequential. And I don't mean to dismiss someone else's important thing, but it's like, I can sit in a conversation, listen, and not feel so compelled to kind of correct, or because there are times like this. And back to the petty, like, okay, so I know that this is the capital of this state or whatever, but you and then I've got to dive in, and I've been known to pull up Google and say, well, like, say Google showed me, but okay, so what did that do? It just basically showed them that I could be a class A douche,
Yeah, it's like checking your motives. I think, with the challenges, with differences, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like to some degree, this is kind of, I don't know, this, like, what's the spiritual counterpart or the next level, if you will, of like being, because to me, like, happiness is like, it's not that big of an achievement for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like happiness is what you get when everything around you stacks up correctly.
Exactly.
Joy to me is like what I want to strive for. And for me, that's the ability for me to tap into and let out that joy and free myself of the joy. Like, a joy experience it's between me and God. Like, you have not, like, you don't, I mean, you can give me, you know what I mean? Like, you can give me joy, but it's like, you can experience joy even though everything else around you it is making you unhappy.
Absolutely. It's like that poem, happiness is not a destination. It's not a place that I'm headed. I think that maybe a spiritual thing, like, again, and we've kind of talked about this. So this idea of the differences, it's like, when I am open to it, when I'm open to other folks and what they bring, I usually, growth is what I can get.
Right.
I can find ways to look at things that I would not have like looked at before, and kind of invite them in. And I think that we expand ourselves that way. We expand ourselves, and find that we're open to new things. I'm learning so much more about myself, especially when I keep my mouth shut. When I keep my mouth shut, it's like, and I just listen. It's not always easy because, I, there's this performance aspect of like,
Right,
me,
right.
there's whatever, but
Yeah. I was thinking like for the being right side of things, that it may be serenity.
oh yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like ultimately that's kind of what hopefully comes from like letting go of that being right aspect and really being able to just accept serenity.
and you can be, and this is kind of petty, but you can still be right and keep your mouth shut. I mean, it's
Right.
possible.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
can absolutely. It's like because I've done that too, where I just have that look.
yeah,
Okay.
agreed. I am struggling to speak more on this topic. Are you?
No, well, I mean, it's like I think that it flows naturally.
Naturally.
Naturally, exactly. When also when we're coming up with the topic, I mean, and let's talk about this idea of diversity more because like
Oh.
it's so many different ways, ideas, and it's even this idea of outside issues
Mhm.
where
Well, I think though that we landed on difference versus diversity because it's more about, like, to me, it's more about like a difference of opinion or a
uh-huh,
difference in the way that I do things or I see things, not necessarily like that I'm a different gender or a different sexual orientation or a different race or
I think that
maybe,
all of
I
those
mean,
things, I think all of those things come to play. They come to
yeah,
play. It's like um, I bring all of my baggage with me.
right.
I bring all of my baggage, and I judge especially when I'm not doing the work. I judge the experiences we have in this moment based on I can based on what I've experienced.
Right, right.
And so it's like I think that it's helpful to take those things into consideration. And I guess when you take it into consideration, it allows you to be patient
Mhm.
with the other person and try to have some compassion and understand that maybe there's something more to this. Maybe there's no maliciousness in there. It's
Right, right.
it just is what it is.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and maybe like the idea of the challenges of difference versus the gifts is also the idea of surrendering to the truth that it can be difficult and challenging to be in the difference with people because it's really hard to understand or to see something
uh,
that's different than you and like to really get it and see it. And so maybe it is, I mean, maybe it makes more sense to like challenge yourself with, what that means.
also acknowledging, maybe the, comparing to being happy or being right. I think sometimes we are stuck in our ignorance
Mhm.
and we hold on to things that kind of, they may be our belief, but they're not, or they may be our truth, but they're not the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, oh, hi, David. Go ahead, Don.
Oh, David P says, I was gonna say that Bonnie, sometimes with conflict, it's not about me being happy per se, but finding serenity. And sometimes with conflict, serenity for me comes by not being right, but by walking away.
Blue.
Oop. Ultimately, we need to learn when to fight our battles and when to walk away, even if we feel we're right. You got to know when to hold them.
Absolutely.
Like that song. I'm not a singer, but
And I guess like David, so how did you begin that? Because it's like there has to be a point where you kind of put
yeah,
the flag up and the white flag up. Like I think that, and sometimes we can go to extremes because sometimes I just turn my
well,
back on it.
yeah,
Everything, I'm tired. Like I got to the point where I was so tired of being judged for being that certain way because
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, that's done. Because I would get all indignant, even though I was probably not in the right, and say, fine, you don't want my opinion. It's I'm not giving you anything. I'm never going to give you anything again.
Right.
And then I would shut down completely, which was not good for anybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for being concerned. It's like I'm all you totally like yeah, right.
I'm very concerned.
No, but it's that point where it's like because David, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's like sometimes you just have to walk away. But
Yeah.
again, going back to, there are times when you like there you don't walk away. You don't walk away because of the relationship you have, or the connection that you have with the individual. I think that
Well, and every situation is different, even if it's with the same person.
yeah, no,
You
exactly.
know, so it's like sometimes it is about like walking away, and other times it's about challenging something, maybe.
37, David says again, 37 years in my career has taught me that it took 25 years in customer service. Oh, yeah. Customer
Wow.
service. Well, customer service, okay, so that's a different one because you don't have a connection to those individuals. Sometimes it's easier to kind of like,
It can be one and the same, though.
Yeah.
I think that being right or being right, whatever our topic is, being happy versus being right. And again, to me, I just feel like it's more of like the surface level. So it might be the things at work. It might be, I don't know, like just things would, I don't know. I just don't see it as like a big, like, I don't think it's a practice that I want to use for something really serious. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like being happy or being right is like for petty. I really do. I just think like you're not going to be, I don't know. Maybe I suck at this.
You don't
Maybe
think
I
that's
should
you
do
don't think
that.
that's judgment? No.
Maybe like in thinking about it further, like maybe it is like, maybe it's like, cause I was like trying to think like, if you don't like somebody's partner that they're married, I don't know if that's more serious where you let, you know what I mean?
So it's a case, maybe it's a case to case basis. It depends on what the situation is.
I just feel like I might be selling this slogan short.
Well, no, because I think what it is, there are some things that are serious, and there are some things that are not so serious. But I think what it comes down to, what's your relationship with the person? Because, not to go into too far into detail, but when you like, I have a friend who is in a relationship that I don't necessarily agree with, but you had said earlier, like, I have to respect that person,
Right.
number one, has a higher power and is figuring out for themselves what they need to do. And I guess all you can do is be loving. And sometimes being loving means shutting your mouth. So we were struggling with the topic, but we found out.
We did. We were running out of time.
Yeah, but we're out of time. It always happens because I think I absolutely love having a conversation. So in case you want to get in touch with me, you can always reach me at LouisLou86 on the gram.
And you can reach me on all of the things at A Queer Chaplain. You can say and use queer with me, even if you're not one of me, a queer, a queer chaplain. I know some folks have like thought that's a bad word, but with me, it's not. So
Absolutely.
I respect that it is for some.
We want to remind you that the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community, located in the heart of the Castro district of San Francisco. And we endeavor to be a place where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy.
And we would love to hear from you on our SpeakPipe. We have a link in the description. What the SpeakPipe is an opportunity for you to leave us a voicemail, an audio clip.
We want to hear your voice.
Exactly, that we could then interact with on the show. Be really helpful, So if you have a topic or you want to respond to something that we said, we'd love to hear from you. So just click that link in the description and let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, if you want to be right, you can send us a SpeakPipe.
Right, tell us how you do it right.
I know, exactly.
Make us happy.
Yeah, thank you. And again, it's like we do not speak for anyone in recovery. These are just our own thoughts regarding recovery.
And we are live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Castro Country Club's Facebook and YouTube channel, or you can listen to us anytime at anywhere you listen to podcasts at the CCC.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we will talk to you next week and when Anthony joins us again.
Absolutely.